How long it take it? Oh. All right, so very recently, news stations and newspapers around the world have been warning parents about the Momo challenge, where a frightening image pops up on the screen and is said to encourage children to harm themselves. One report says it's a hoax, but the way in which this story went viral led everyone to invite the president of the Jamaica Association of Social Workers, Eva Ford, and the chief executive officer of the National Parenting Support Commission, Casey Carr, to share their thoughts. I told you at the top of the show that we're going to show it once. It's kind of scary. I don't know when my producer will tell me it's coming up, but I will tell you before, and maybe you probably have a go. Hide up your face. Morning to you both.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Casey, let me start with you. First thing, we heard that it's a hoax. True or lie? Hoax or no hoax?
Well, I'm not even sure I want to substantiate that, because the fact is we do have information from other places, for example, the UK, where it was initially thought of as a hoax. That's in 2017. But parents have actually seen the meme for themselves, and they have accounts from their children where they actually saw it, and it was in fact telling them to do things that are harmful. So I just want to stay away from that hoax and talk generally about what safety looks like at this time in the 21st century, or what parents need to be doing.
Yes, Sim mentioned that someone apparently did something that Momo told them.
Yes.
How dangerous is this? Is it just because it's weak kids, or it really can get you to the things that you're not supposed to be doing?
Well, I do believe that persons who have an interest in hurting children know exactly how susceptible children are, and the fact is they would have had some kind of genius behind their actions. They understand child psychology. They know that children are inquisitive, they're curious, and they know how to grab their attention initially and get them hooked. So I want to say to our parents, all responsible adults, teachers alike, be very vigilant.
Because if it's not Momo, it's something else.
It's something else.
There have been other challenges. There were challenges last year. There will be challenges next year.
That's right. That's right.
And the truth is that, from what I've read, you have this character, Momo, who is telling kids to hurt their siblings, hurt their parents in their sleep, light the house on fire, even commit suicide.
That's right.
And we know there are other challenges that have resulted in this kind of outcome already. So generally what we're telling parents is, if it's not even Momo, look out for, monitor, place restrictions on how your kids monitor social media.
And I think the important thing is for parents, you know, to have these relationships with their children where they can talk to them about what's going on, because it's virtually impossible to know everything that's out there. There's always going to be something that comes up, some threat or some, you know, fear of a threat. So it's important to have that open communication with your children and not necessarily talking down to them about, you know, stay away, but to ask them what's going on, you know, what's the new trend and what are people talking about.
How do you have that conversation? Because when this thing with Momo came up, I tried to have it, well, I did have the discussion with my 8-year-old child, and she was scared out of her wits. So
I had the
how do
same
you balance
experience,
it to not scare, because she will dream about it till next year, to not scare them into, you know, panic and fear, but at the same time to be very stern about the warning. How do you put yourself in the middle to kind of make sure you're doing it right?
I think it's important to ask them what their thoughts are, and then to reassure them that, you know, there are ways to stay safe. You can talk to them about, you know, let's agree on to put some parental controls on our devices. Let's agree to turn off the auto replay on some of these videos. And so you can negotiate with your child how to stay safe and how to keep them protected.
And also teach them how to block. That if something pops up, it's important that they know what to do.
Yes.
So
and come and
tell you. Very important. They need to come and they need to share what the experience was.
Eva, I've been doing this show for a long time, and I've had this discussion over and over and over again. Maybe not about Momo, but being careful what your kids see. Why is it still happening? Are the parents not being aggressive enough? Sim suggested that she spoke to her 8-year-old child. Why is this happening?
Because the devices have become the new pacifier. Parents are stressed, they're frustrated, they're tired, they're overworked. And so many times the pacifier, the new pacifier is given to a child just to keep him occupied or her occupied so that I can get some me time. But you know, the 10 minutes that you're going to spend on the conversation is so worthwhile to teach your child. It's more worthwhile than the back end of that, not doing anything and then something harmful happens to a child that you are going to have to deal with. So we want parents to understand that this is a reality, that children are now going to be exposed to many things on the internet. It's not every content that comes on the internet is wholesome and good for your children to be exposed to. And so we do understand the stresses of life, but we want them to be vigilant. We want them to have the conversations with their children, and we also want them to teach their children what the malicious content looks like and what to do about it.
Sim mentioned once that we spoke
Yes.
about. Have you heard that any other youngster did anything untoward because of this?
Well, I know there is, I spoke to one parent in St. Anne, interestingly, and it was funny too, because in the sense that she said my child would never be exposed to this because he doesn't have internet on his phone. And I said, that doesn't mean he doesn't have access. So she went and spoke to him. And indeed, at school, they were exposed to it. They saw part of the challenge, and he said, Mommy, it freaked me out. Those were his exact words. But then he also mentioned Splatoon, Five Nights with Freddy Krueger, Granny, those other games that are equally scary. Those might not be proponents for self-harm, but they're equally scary and have malicious content.
You know what scared me about reading about this? It says that this Momo character was popping up in the feeds of kids 2 to 5.
Yes.
So talk about indigo children, right?
That's
These kids
right.
are born with the ability to just manipulate.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So it's not uncommon for a 2-year-old to be
That's right.
playing with a tablet and to buck up on a character. I mean, it just makes you realize what kind of evil is in the world.
That's right. And a
how
2-year-old
vigilant-
wouldn't have the language
exactly.
to explain to parents what he or she is seeing, which is why parents have to be so vigilant. We want you to encourage children to use the devices in your space, in the family space. And then you need to even check in. Go and look at what's going on and look at the history, absolutely.
There's also, like if you're on YouTube, there's YouTube Kids. You know, we were talking about WhatsApp. I don't know why a 2-year-old would necessarily need to be using WhatsApp, but there are parental controls, and so we remind parents to utilize those.
Yeah, this argument about the new pacifier is a real argument.
No, man, that
There are people who suggest your kid should have limits, and they should, on how much they ingest from the tablet. But there are parents who will leave their children on that thing for
Forever.
The
I was in a barber shop.
Yes.
I was in a barber shop, and this young man would not keep quiet in the chair, crying, and his mom just got up and went like that.
And that was it.
And my boy just sit down and stay, so, and them cut off everything, and them not another word out. So the pacifier is
they're not there. They're all
they're
engrossed.
all engrossed.
Yeah.
And there are other things about that kind of engagement too, but for purposes of this conversation, safety looks very different at this time in 2019. It's not, you know, the same, we can use the same expectations that you have or the same rules you put in place at home that don't speak to strangers. How would you interact with a stranger? Well, it's the same thing. People on the internet are strangers. So you have to talk to your mother or talk to your father about a stranger who is telling you, send your contact information, or tell me where you live, or what is your right name, which school do you attend.
And sometimes they have on the headset, so you can't even hear what they
That's
deal
right.
with.
So it's very important that we're asking, you must probe, ask questions, and listen to your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said it, not with a view to punish or talk down to them,
But to stay in
but
communication.
to stay in
And I
communication.
need to go back to horse and buggy.
I'm with you.
We never have the whole heap of something. Good to see you,
Yes,
Mom.
thank you, thank you.
One more tip before we go. Give your guidelines to grandparents, babysitters, and anyone else who will be with your child.
Yes.
Very
Karina, we're going to
important.
show that picture?
No?
I did? Remember, it's a little scary, folks, so be careful, but it's going to come up for a second now.
I
Just
think it's
before we-
important that you look, parents, because you need to see what the face of evil looks like,
Yep,
so that you can know how to, yeah.
scary. There you go. All right, that's good. President of the Jamaica Association of Social Workers, Eva Ford, and Chief Executive Officer of the National Parenting Support Commission, Kesia Carr.
All right, more from our violinist, Michael Wilson, after this.
So come.
Thank you.